What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Geek Pantheon. I am Eric, and today I want to talk to you all about Legend in the Mist. If you all saw the last video I did on the channel, you will know that I'm a huge fan of the City of Mist tabletop role-playing game system and did a whole review love letter to it. And Son of Oak Games has a new iteration on that system coming out for rustic fantasy. So City of Mist is a fantasy meets urban environment. Then the next system they released, Otherscape, is your cyberpunk, futuristic, and now they're taking it back to rustic fantasy with Legend in the Mist, and they have released their demo of the game. And I wanted to take some time to give my thoughts and opinions on it, how they've tweaked the core system from City of Mist into both Otherscape and Legend in the Mist, and whether or not I recommend checking it out. Spoilers, I do. First and foremost, I do want to touch on the fact that in this video, I'm going to be covering the rules of the demo game. I'm not going to get into the actual adventure that's included, just because I want this to be a resource for players who are thinking about playing the game to watch and not have to worry about spoilers for that. If you all are interested in a follow-up video covering the adventure, I would love to do that. I plan on diving a bit deeper into it, and I'm probably going to record a video of it anyway, but if you want it, let me know. Okay, up. Over, no, down, turn only. So the biggest question at the outset is, what is Legend in the Mist? If you haven't watched any videos of mine before, you're totally unfamiliar with the system, what are you getting yourself into? And the easiest way to put it is that it is a variant of Powered by the Apocalypse. That's where, I guess, the core of the system comes from, although there is a lot of tweaks and changes and things that are built upon the foundation of Powered by the Apocalypse, that to say this is a Powered by the Apocalypse game feels like an oversimplification. At the core of it, though, you do roll 2d6, you add some pluses, you take away some minuses, and then if you get a 10 or higher, you succeed. 7 to 9, success with consequence. 6 and under, failure with consequence. But the core of this game are the tags that exist on the various themes of your character. That's how you build a character, is you have 4 themes around your character that then have tags attached to them. And that's what you invoke when you are making a check. If you have a tag that is rusty sword or dented shield, those are things that you will invoke as you adventure to add a plus to your roll. So if I'm trying to swing at a kobold, I will get a +1 from my rusted sword. If I'm trying to bash them in the face with my shield, I would get a +1 with my shield. If I'm trying to protect myself from damage from them, I would get a +1 from my shield as well. You're starting to understand what we're talking about. But then you will occasionally have special tags called statuses. Now, this system does not have hit points. This system does not have stress or strain. Everything is built around statuses. If you get stabbed with the sword, you're going to get the cut 1 status or bleeding 3, depending on how well you defend yourself and how powerful the enemy is that you are attacking. If a dragon breathes fire at you, you might get the charred 4 status on you if you really don't defend well against it. And these act like any other tag. If I got hit with a club from a giant and got broken arm 3, and then I try to swing my sword, guess what? I'm going to get a -3 because I'm trying to swing my sword with a broken arm, and I'm in quite a bit of pain. So that is how this system builds itself around tags and how those interact with dice rolls. You don't have skills, you don't have attributes. It's all these tags, and then you roll 2d6, get +3 from all your various things, but then, oh no, a -3 because you have a broken arm, so it's just a straight up roll. But oh, also you got hit in the head and have a ringer also, so now it's actually a -1 because of the ringer 1 status. And without belaboring the point too much, that is how dice rolls function in Legend in the Mist. That is exactly the same as City of Mist. Where things really change is how you approach dice rolls and how you actually play the game in practice. Those of you that watch City of Mist will know that City of Mist had certain moves that you could take, whether you were investigating or taking a risk. And in Legend in the Mist, that goes away. You don't have these prescribed types of moves that you do. Rather, the whole game is built around conversations that have the same prescriptive setup of establish, action, consequences. So the narrator establishes the scene, communicates any challenges, anything that's going on. Then the player takes an action. That's where the dice roll comes in. And then determining the consequences are what happened after the dice roll. And that's really how it goes. Establish action consequence. Once we've determined what the consequences are, the narrator then establishes any changes to the scene that have occurred. And now we're back to action consequences. Occasionally, if a consequence allows for an action of an NPC, like a counterattack, then it might bounce back to the player to then take an action as a result of the consequence, and then there would be additional consequences based on that action. In terms of the change from City of Mist to Legend in the Mist of the prescribed move set versus this established action consequences framework, I think I like it. I do think that something that I've run into running City of Mist for players in the past is they can really get in their heads about figuring out which move they should be doing. And so by removing that framework, what Son of Oak Games has done is further freed things up to exist in the fiction and in the storytelling so that players aren't looking and figuring out, should I investigate? Should I face danger? What should I be doing in this situation? It's just the narrator establishes the scene and then asks, what do you do? And the players hopefully will get comfortable enough with the system to where they're not looking for the crutches of prescribed moves or action types like D&D. It's just, what do you do? Which of your tags are applicable? Which of the statuses may impact that action? And speaking of actions, there is a really great framework. This is similar to City of Mist, although I think it's phrased in a really good way in the demo for Legend in the Mist. And they may have done this in another one of the supplements for City of Mist that I just haven't read yet. But when they talk about taking actions, they break it down into 3 action types, which is simple way, quick way, detailed way. So simple way is a player doing something that doesn't require a roll. Can I open that door? Can I move to the other side of the room? Can I pick up the sword? Yes. You ask, the narrator confirms that you can do this, and then the scene continues on. Quick way is what a skill check would be in D&D 5th edition, where it's, I want to try and unlock the door if I discover it's locked. I want to try to jump over a gap. I want to try to ride my horse quickly, and the narrator wants to just have that be a quick check. 1 roll, if you succeed, getting a 10 or higher, great. 7 to 9, you succeed with consequence. 6 and less, you suffer consequences without any benefits. And then detailed way is what you would describe in other systems as entering an encounter or going into structured time as opposed to narrative time, where we are getting into the nitty-gritty and the degrees of success. And so combat encounters will typically be done in a detailed way. But the reason I really love this framework and the way this system handles it is you have things in Dungeons and Dragons like skill challenges, where you're taking the concept of skill checks and kind of cramming them together in a way to try to build out a more lengthened encounter that isn't combat focused or trying to do a social encounter through a series of checks. And there's no real good framework for how to handle that in a lot of the D20 systems. The thing I love about Legend in the Mist and City of Mist is with the status system, most challenges, not most, all challenges that you encounter as a player are going to have different limits that once you hit that limit, you have overcome the challenge. But a lot of challenges are going to have different limits based on your approach. So a mob boss might have an intimidation limit 6 or 5, where you have to get a really big status on them to intimidate them. It's going to take a lot of time and effort or an incredible roll. Whereas if they're like more scrawny and just not like a rough and tumble fighter, then maybe to physically overpower them, it's only going to take a limit of 2 or 3. And the players don't know that. They can make an estimation looking at them, but that provides a really good structure for the narrator to celebrate and reward different methods of approaching a challenge. And so, like I said before, if you want riding the horse quickly to be just a simple check, can you catch up to them? Do it the quick way. Roll a check, get a 10 or higher, great. 7 or 9, you still do it, but here are some consequences attached to it. But if you want a chase sequence, well, now you can go into detailed way, and the system already has a framework for you ready to go of how to get a status that's great enough to catch up to them. And it can be this pulled back and forth encounter without you having to put a hat on the system that doesn't really have anything for it. And then additionally, it gets into some ways that you can interact with your role as a player by making sacrifices. You can actually burn tags on your character sheet. So instead of a +1, they give you a +3 for that roll, but you can't use that tag again until you recover it. And then you also have push your luck, where if you get a 10 or higher as a result on a check, you can accept consequences anyway to get an additional bonus to the end of the check. Now, in a similar fashion to City of Mist, the way that you improve your character is all of your things will also have a weakness tag. And when you perform a check of some kind, perform an action that you decide interacts with your weakness tag, that is an opportunity for your character to grow and improve and get better by filling up the track, showing that you are improving in that theme by confronting your weaknesses. Something that is very different from City of Mist to Legend in the Mist is the different theme types. So in City of Mist, you have Logos and Mythos, which are just two sides of the same coin. Your character will have some Logos, some Mythos, but there's no inherent power attribution to the different types of themes. Whereas in Legend in the Mist, you actually have 3 different types of themes that do indicate the level of experience and power that your character has. You have origin, you have adventure, and you have greatness as the 3 theme types that exist for your character. And the core rulebook will include character creation rules if you are building a character that is more experienced and has a greatness theme or 2 or all adventure themes. Although in the demo, all 3 pre-generated characters have 4 origin themes just to show that they are at the beginning of their adventuring career. And then a brand new aspect of the game is camping. Obviously, rustic fantasy is going to have a place for setting up a fire and camping for the night, as opposed to City of Mist, where you just go back to your apartment. But it introduces this concept of a backpack that is your item tags. So things like a whetstone, a rope, food rations, and they're going to be things that you can create story tags out of for the next day. So like the whetstone being able to sharpen your blade to give it a +1 or a tier 1 status to your sword, or I guess a tier 1 story tag. The full rules for camping and utilizing these tags is going to be included in the core rulebook. They don't have the full rules for the system in the demo, but I imagine that's going to be a way that you can improve items temporarily, but they are subject to getting stolen or getting dropped or being forced to be left behind as a consequence, things like that. So I'm really interested to see how they get fleshed out in the core rules, because I do like this idea of being able to temporarily alter your character for a day. And then the rest of the demo is honestly a lot of narrator advice on creating challenges in meaningful ways. And something that they do is they provide challenge archetypes like attackers, pursuers, with what their ultimate goal is and what they're trying to accomplish. And then you get into the adventure. And I think that it's a really great overview of the system. I'm excited to get a bit deeper into the new rules that they're introducing. They do also in the demo have, here are some ideas for types of actions that you can be taking and the context in which those actions make sense, like attacking, buffing an ally, healing an ally, and what that looks like. But what's nice about the system is they all come down to the same action economy. Roll 2d6, add your tags, negotiate with the statuses, and then continue on. And so you have these moments that you can have in this game that would be really hard to litigate by the book in a game like D&D 5th edition, where if there is an ally that is like 10 feet away from me, and I'm the tank of the party, I have the big beefy shield, I wear the armor, and they're about to get hit by a troll and their club, and it's like, well, I want to try to intercede to protect them. And it's like, well, it's not my turn. I would only have I wouldn't have movement as part of my reaction, even if I was there. Whereas in this system, the narrator establishes that. And I say, I want to burn the tag of my shield to throw it. and time it perfectly to where it like hits the club off path, so it doesn't make impact with my ally. And that is fully within the rules. Like I get a +3 because I'm throwing it, but I can't use it again until I've taken time to recover it. And I love the cinematic nature of that and the freedom that gives you as a player and as a narrator to reward your players for creative thinking, as opposed to going, yeah, that'd be neat if you could do that, but you can't do that until you hit level 7. So, whoops. So those are my thoughts on Legend in the Mist. I really love the tweaks that they made. I'm excited to read the core rulebook and get into the system. And I'm definitely going to check out the adventure that's included and probably do a video on that, just giving my how to run critique and review and insights into it. Those seem to be a video that you all enjoy, those video types. But let me know what you think about it in the comments down below. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video if you liked it. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Eric, and I will see you next time.